The scalpel parts flesh with surgical precision. No tremor in the surgeon's hand. No hesitation. The patient's eyes track the blade's movement, fully conscious, fully aware. The leather straps hold firm against the writhing. This is not a nightmare. This is Tuesday morning at Pingfang. The surgeon makes a note. Subject 487. Chinese female, approximately 25 years. Pregnancy, 7 months. No anesthesia administered as per protocol. Examining fetal response to maternal distress. Outside this room, they call this building a lumber mill. Inside, they have another name for their subjects. Maruta, logs, because logs are what you cut. Logs don't scream. Logs don't have names, families, futures. Between 1935 and 1945, at least 3,000 human beings were dissected alive in the name of medical research. Cut open while breathing, organs removed while hearts still beat. And when the war ended, the architects of this horror weren't hanged. They were recruited. The architect of atrocity, General Shiro Ishii, was a doctor before he was a monster. Brilliant, ambitious, and utterly without conscience. In 1928, he toured Europe's biological research facilities and returned to Japan with a vision that would nauseate even the SS. A doctor's calling is to challenge death, he told his staff. To understand life, we must take it apart while it still functions. The Japanese military gave him everything he wanted. Unlimited funding, total secrecy, and most importantly, an endless supply of human test subjects from occupied Manchuria. Criminals, they said at first, then resistance fighters, then anyone who looked suspicious, then anyone at all. The factory of Death Pingfang was no makeshift camp. This was a 6-square-kilometer complex with its own railway spur, power plant, and airfield. It could hold 400 prisoners at a time. None ever left alive. The facilities included operating theatres, pressure chambers, centrifuges, animal houses, bacteria cultivation rooms, and industrial-scale incinerators. The crematoriums ran day and night. The smoke never stopped. Dr. Ken Yuasa, who worked at Unit 731, testified decades later. We were told the subjects were condemned criminals who volunteered for medical experiments to reduce their sentences. We knew this was a lie. We didn't care. The experiments begin. The vivisections followed a methodical pattern. Subjects were infected with diseases: plague, cholera, anthrax, syphilis. Then, at various stages of illness, they were cut open to observe the disease's progress in living tissue. No anesthesia. Ishii believed it would compromise the data. One survivor, and there were precious few, testified. They cut him open from chest to stomach while he was still alive. He was screaming terribly. The doctors were noting down the color of his organs, touching them, examining them. When he finally died, they looked disappointed. Beyond vivisection. But vivisection was just the beginning. Unit 731's experiments read like a catalogue of human cruelty. Prisoners were placed in pressure chambers to see how long before their eyes popped from their sockets. They were spun in centrifuges until death, frozen and thawed repeatedly to study frostbite, while conscious, hung upside down to determine how long until death. They tested flamethrowers on living humans, injected prisoners with animal blood, removed stomachs and reattached esophagi to intestines, amputated limbs and reattached them to opposite sides of the body, all meticulously documented, all in the name of science. The women and children. Unit 731 didn't discriminate. Women were subjected to forced pregnancy, then vivisected at different stages to study fetal development. Children were infected with syphilis to observe congenital transmission. One researcher's journal, discovered after the war, noted, "Small subjects show remarkable resilience. Child 23 survived 11 hours post-vivisection. Mother expired after 4. Emotional responses noted as significant." The banality of evil measured in hours and minutes. The field tests. The laboratory horrors were preparation for something worse. Unit 731 wasn't just studying disease. They were weaponizing it. In 1940, they dropped plague-infected fleas over Chinese cities. In 1942, they poisoned wells with cholera and typhoid. Conservative estimates put civilian deaths from these biological attacks at 400,000. Villages simply ceased to exist, entire bloodlines erased by manufactured plagues, and Unit 731 researchers followed behind, studying the dying, taking samples, perfecting their craft. The American Deal. When Japan surrendered in 1945, Ishii ordered all evidence destroyed. The furnaces ran over time. Surviving prisoners were machine-gunned. But you can't burn knowledge. The Americans knew about Unit 731, and they wanted what Ishii had learned. The deal was simple. Full immunity in exchange for data. No trials, no consequences. Just hand over the research and walk free. General MacArthur himself signed off on it. The value to US biological warfare research is of such importance, the classified report read, that it far outweighs the value accrued from war crimes prosecution. Ishii's data went straight to Fort Detrick, Maryland, America's biological warfare facility. The doctors who had cut open pregnant women, who had frozen children alive, who had created plagues, they went home to comfortable lives. The Moscow trials. Only the Soviets held trials. In 1949, they prosecuted 12 Unit 731 members they'd captured. The testimony was so horrific that the international community dismissed it as communist propaganda. It wasn't propaganda. If anything, the Soviets underestimated the horror. But even these trials were theater. The Soviets wanted the data too. The convicted served light sentences in comfortable conditions, then were quietly recruited into Soviet biological warfare programs. The cover-up. For decades, Japan denied Unit 731 existed. The buildings at Pingfang were dynamited. Records were classified or destroyed. School textbooks made no mention. When former members tried to speak out, they were silenced. When Chinese victims sought compensation, they were ignored. When researchers published findings, they were dismissed as anti-Japanese propaganda. Only in 1984 did Japan officially acknowledge Unit 731's existence. No apologies, no reparations, just acknowledgement. The living legacy. Here's the truly horrifying part. Unit 731's research wasn't worthless. The data on hypothermia, derived from freezing humans alive, advanced cold weather survival medicine. The plague research accelerated vaccine development. The surgical techniques discovered through vivisection found their way into medical textbooks. We use knowledge born from torture. Every medical student who learns about treating frostbite benefits indirectly from those who were frozen alive at Pingfang. It's a moral contamination that can never be cleansed. The men who walked free. Shiro Ishii died peacefully in 1959, having never spent a day in prison. His deputy, Masaji Kitano, became head of Japan's largest pharmaceutical company. Ryoichi Naito founded the Japan Blood Bank. They attended medical conferences, published papers, trained new doctors. The hands that had held scalpels over screaming victims now shook hands with international colleagues who never knew. Dr. Ken Yuasa, who participated in vivisections, later said, I could never again wear a white coat without remembering the blood. But my colleagues, they forgot easily. That's what frightened me most, how easily we all forgot. The buildings are gone now. Weeds grow through the foundations. Tour groups take selfies where the crematoriums once burned. Time, that great healer, has done its work. But questions remain, sharp as scalpels. If data obtained through unconscionable cruelty can save lives, do we use it? If knowledge comes soaked in blood, can it ever be clean? When does medical research cross the line from healing to horror? We tell ourselves Unit 731 was an aberration, Japanese militarism meeting medical extremism, unique circumstances creating unique evil. But every nation that received Ishii's data kept it, used it, built upon it. The same governments that hanged Nazis for human experimentation granted immunity to Japan's vivisectionists. Because in the end, we valued what they learned more than we valued justice for those they tortured. The Maruta, the logs, have no graves. Their ashes were scattered to the wind, their names erased from history, but their suffering echoes still in every medical ethics committee, in every informed consent form, in every reminder that humans in white coats are capable of infinite cruelty when they stop seeing patients as people. Some knowledge comes at too high a price. Some sins cannot be undone by time or utility. And some ghosts refuse to be buried, no matter how deep we dig the graves. In the ruins of Pingfang, if you listen carefully, they say you can still hear the screaming. But perhaps